Alrighty, everybody. Good afternoon. I hope everyone's enjoying the weekend. It's sunny and warm here, which has been a nice change from the regular, so hopefully wherever you are enjoying the nice weather. We are here for the last race of round one. So the last race of round one is going to be between TheBigK1 and Dyan. Whoever wins this will be going on to the second round of the winner's bracket, and then of course there will be a second chance for the other person as well, because this is a double elimination tournament. So I am going to get on board with our commentary here in one moment. Alrighty, so it should be live with our commentary here. We have Kyle Berry in Turkey. How are you folks doing today?
Doing all right,
hey, doing great. Hope everybody's feeling the same.
Excellent. I am going to get our racers rolling, so I will leave you folks to it and have some fun.
Outstanding.
How is just a request for the stream, please, for the commentary?
Yes, my bad. I apologize.
It's all good. I just thought I'd better just quickly mention.
Yes, you definitely need that to do your job. Alrighty, one moment and we will get this race kicked off.
Okay, so we are back and with another round of Cyber Shadow. This is the fourth matchup of the first round. TheBigK1 versus Dyanketo. And as mentioned, I'm TKY, being joined by Kyle Berry. Both of us been running this game for a bit now. So what do you reckon to this matchup here then, Kyle? How do you think this is going to play out?
Oh, I've been excited for this match personally. Also, hi everyone. I seen you're the messenger. Also, Cyber Shadow now. Very excited because the Big Kyle is, of course, from the Bamboo Crew, another runner of the messenger. So I'm pulling for him. But at the same time, Dyanketo, I really like this runner. I see him coming up, and I want to see him do well. Especially having a bit of a hand injury right now, we'll be pulling for this wounded shinobi to endure.
Indeed, and hopefully it won't play too much of an effect as we go through this run. So Cyber Shadow is a game of two halves, essentially, or a run of two halves. The front half, first 5 chapters, is essentially technical platforming, number of aspects such as cycle-based techniques, tank methods, and all that good stuff will come into play within the front half. Opening up here, pretty straightforward, just to get you to get a feel for things, just get an understanding of the jumping around, understanding what the switches are, so on and so forth, as we get ready for Chapter 1.
Very nice tutorial. Both runners getting a couple of those kickies. You're seeing those little dusts as they kick off the edge of the platform, saving, was it 3 frames?
In around 3 frames each time. Granted, that's not much of a time save in the course, but over the course of at least the front half of the run, get that in a number of good spots. It will save you at least a couple of seconds through the course of the run. So usually it's a good idea to at least attempt them on points where you know you're not at risk of like falling into a pit, for example. So most of our runners will probably end up attempting to go for that kind of methodology.
Very nice. Very straightforward jumping left to right movement, and seeing them picking up a lot of these essence globes. That's a game currency that they're going to need a good lot of going forward. First big damage so coming up there.
Getting a little caught there, but does get through, no problem. Taking that tank damage. This is a throwback to the sort of the 80s and the 90s hard style of gameplay, such as games like Ninja Gaiden, for example. That also comes with certain tropes, such as knockback. We can use that to our advantage at certain points, like they did there. Just tanking through, turning around the last moment to take the knockback in the correct direction. And that enables them to just cut through, saving them at least a second or so from having to kill the enemy. It takes a good 5 or 6 strikes to take down.
Kyle unfortunately taking a bit too much steam there, but the checkpoint is very close, so not too much of a setback. The runner's still on the same screen. Yeah, just now exiting after the soak.
Yeah, this game is pretty much tough through and through, and you will notice we'll probably say, like, as they go on, like, this is where it really picks up and stuff like that, but trust me, even from the get-go, this run can be challenging in its own right and merit. And things can happen. Unfortunately, it does have those modern aesthetics where there's no life system in play. There are checkpoints in a number of spots. As mentioned, there is currency in the form of essence, as Carl mentioned, that we will touch on a bit more as and when that will realistically come into play. So approaching here with Dion on Dion's side, the first sub-boss of Stage 1, the Smasher. This is pretty much a case of we don't have any upgrades at this point, just staying close, getting as many slashes as you can. Ultimately, you're looking to take this down in 2 rounds. Nicely done on Dion's side as Big K begins his route with it.
Had a bit of a fall climbing up the platform, so was able to recover, and now looking for a 2-cycle boss fight as well. Looks like he is definitely on track for it. Clean jump over the flames, and that's smasher done.
And that is indeed both runners getting off to a good start there, as Dian now entering the first major cycle room of the run. This room, in fact, has about 3 cycles that our runners are looking to best. There is a little bit of leniency with the first cycle, dependent on your movement prior to it. So that comes through to each runner, and of course it does act as a domino effect. If you miss one cycle, you could end up missing the next cycle, and so on and so forth. If he gets the first cycle, no problem. On the inside, fortunately took a few hits there, so he's going to have to wait out the second cycle a little bit to reach that single platform there. And Big K following suit, getting the first cycle, no problem. Tanking damage there to keep onto the second cycle. Ooh. And gets that. Perfectly
very
fine.
Nice
We're onto the...
Gonna catch him up just Indeed. A little bit.
Then Mercer Dean unfortunately took a couple of hits, so won't be able to go for the first cycle where you're looking to take a tank hit and reach that top platform by using the bullets to be able to turn in, just saving you waiting for one more of these additional platforms. Unfortunately, Big K getting a bit caught up there, so he'll have to hold out on that cycle as well. It's not the worst case scenario, it's only going to be a small time loss, so it's perfectly reasonable to go for, especially with that last one, because there's a good chance that if you do go for the method and you don't turn at the right moment, you're probably going to get knocked back and straight into the pit, and that's going to lead you to a death. Anyway, both runners getting through Chapter 1 very nicely, both approaching pretty much around the same time, so far, good close contest. It may be early doors, but it's always good to see.
I mean, keeping that sink in is really heartening to see. I mean, you don't wish for any runner to make mistakes to bring that closer, but it did unfortunately end up happening. Just trading enough soaks and falls here or there that we have them both approaching Imperator for the first time. This is our first boss. They're just going to try to stand there and deliver as many hits as they can in the shuriken range, taking damage when necessary to deliver extra strikes. And if enough damage is done, they're aiming to kind of kill him as he's jumping up there, but it's very difficult to do. Gonna get him down, both killed on the ground. Very nice.
Again, that one rounder is pretty tricky. You have to be precise with all your slashes. Any slash miss could easily lead to him staying in that air formation. They can clip his toenails whilst he's up there, but it's a very, very tricky window to hit. But both of them getting through without any real hassle. Had to wait it out a little bit, but survived the fight. Gets through with their first upgrade, the shuriken, so it allows them a little projectile. Now they have an SP meter that they can manage. It starts off with 5 points on the meter. For each time they use that shuriken, there goes a point a meter.
Very good. Both runners getting in there, holding right, throwing the shuriken out of the gate. Otherwise, you die in a most embarrassing way at the beginning. We see both runners opting for SP. Just going to give them a little bit safer routing for their mana going forward.
It's never fun when you forget to throw that first shuriken. You just jump into the pit and just look down at your controller thinking, what was I doing?
Nah. We've all been there. Unfortunately, also been in bug hell as Dian is just swarmed by rust flies and unfortunately forced into a pit, as that knockback can be very brutal. Kyle making it safe to the checkpoint, though we'll see him advancing into the first bug boss room. We'll see what kind of RNG is in store here.
Every time they keep whacking this big giant bug on the wall, there's going to be a bunch of these little rust flies, which is the real pain in the neck of this particular lock-in room. Now, the little bit of RNG that is involved is actually with the bug itself. For whatever reason, it could take anywhere from 3 to 5 strikes to kill, and that is randomized just because. I don't really know why exactly. I just know it can be 3 strikes to kill. It could be 5. Alright, so getting through and moving on. Opting to hold off of what was known as the laser skip. It's a fair enough call. It is a bit of a tight window to be able to pull off, and of course, missing it, you get smacked by the big laser and you're sent right back to your last checkpoint. So playing it safe just to ensure that he gets through. It's a smart decision, as he now uses that first bit of effort to pick up the first sub-item, which is this blade extend. Literally just extends your blade range just a little bit more, but it just happens to be super good for laser brain. It enables you to get an extra strike in order to get 3 strikes a round instead of 2. It's also the only boss in the run that actually has a weak point in its nucleus in the eye of the center. Upon connecting with that, we'll do 2 points of damage instead of 1, and you could essentially just rip through him.
Yeah, nicely done there. Taking a laser hit there, meanwhile Kyle defeating Laser Brain and moving on. We'll be wishing him a clean damage boost on this next room coming up for Dan.
Hopefully so. I guess a little knockback there, so just have to pull back. I'll have to wait out the cycle a little bit. That should be all good for him. And this time he gets through. And as we'll do nicely as he approaches checkpoint,
nice.
He'll probably take a health restoration. Now, fortunately, this being the first save station that actually allows you to get potential upgrades to that save station, it doesn't cost very much essence. In fact, the health regeneration only costs 10. Every other subsequent save station after that is going to be 50 a time, so it's a good call to take the health restoration at this point, especially if you're low before you enter this fight, just in case.
Absolutely, especially in a race context. Unfortunately, Dan wasn't able to soak that bomb and keep his blocks in play, but able to kill Grain very quickly once the next blocks came down. Meanwhile, Kyle is jamming out to some elevator music and dodging spikes, lasers, and rust flies. Oh my.
Oh, the funs and joys of the elevator. So, yeah, this is our first auto-scroller. Under most circumstances, usually the main thing to keep in mind is to try and take out the rust fly pod, simply because there's a lot of spikes around, and when they get caught in the elevator, they will get caught on those spikes, and they will start to burst out uncontrollably. So it just helps to control it in certain aspects, but both our runners know exactly what they're doing and what methods they take, so if they choose to leave any of them on the elevator, it's for a reason, and they know exactly where those flies are going to scatter around, and they'll be able to control them, no problem. So we now get into the final room just before we reach the Stage 2 boss, aiming to keep on a certain particular cycle. If they can, getting a little caught behind, they may fall behind one cycle, but apart from that, it looks pretty clean. So he's going to be happy with that bit of movement. Take a bit of delay there, because the last thing you want to do is get hit by that laser and knocked in the pit at the last moment. Gets on the elevator of trash, as he'll be approaching the scrambler.
Good trash cycle for Big Kyle, just climbing right up there. Unfortunately, Dan brushed against some spikes on the elevator climb. We'll have to listen to that music one more time.
So dealing with scrambling now.
Scrambler. How do we deal with this guy?
Just
hit him a lot and get hit a lot.
Sorry, okay, I'll keep talking over you, my bad. I've got to learn to shut up.
Don't worry, go ahead.
It's fine. All I'll say really is the idea is to stay close with him. As long as you stay relatively close, his cycle is not going to change. It'll be the same pattern every time you encounter him. The moment you start to try and take a bit of a distance game against him, that's when his pattern's going to altercate into something completely different. So as long as you stay in close, not only can you get the damage, but you can ensure the pattern that you want. Yeah, he's done there with Chapter 2. Exiting out, taking Rising Fire. It's an upward slash. And this can be used without SP, it'll just be an upward slash. However, with the SP, it will fire off a couple of fire projectiles, which is actually going to be pretty useful on a number of boss fights and a number of segments going through this run now. As we say, get your cat gem in the chat.
One of my first favorite tracks after, of course, the Chapter 1 opening being an excellent song. Very nice to jam to, just clean platform moving as we ascend that first room, and Kyle is just slashing these guys, hoping not to fall into the Nickelodeon gack. Meanwhile, Dion taking his time not to get destroyed by lasers, very smart move, and making it up for the trash climb.
Ooh, gets a little knock there, and another one's going to have to be a little cautious here. Alright, he gets that laser this time. He's taking a few more hits, but he's got health to spare at least, so he should be fine. As long as he doesn't destroy too much trash, he'll still be on the same cycle regardless. As he'll go and encounter his scrambler fight. Hopefully cook himself some nice, lovely eggs up. And I hate myself just for that joke.
I like my eggs over easy. Much like scramble.
Well, considering this is Cyber Shadow, it's certainly not sunny side up.
Thank you for that one.
Dean, unfortunately, getting a bit caught up. Not Dean, sorry. Big K got a bit caught up in Chapter 3 there. Luckily, the checkpoint was not far away, so he's going to lose very minimal time for that. But recovers it nicely, gets through without incident, wipes out the field, and he's good, and he'll be entering his little big room of left to right. And pretty much this is the hopscotch room, as I'm going to start calling it from now on for some reason.
Hopscotch. All right, let's go with that.
Why not? Hopscotch, leapfrog.
Hopscotch.
I don't know.
It's fun to say. Dyanketo, meanwhile, entering Chapter 3, another cat jam. Nice climb. Hoping he has better luck avoiding the gap.
And it gets through. Pretty much just getting out of this section. He'll be approaching the Stage 3 sub-boss momentarily, but going to get introduced to a new type of enemy on Big K side, up this side, these big giant metal things in the sky. I keep forgetting names because I'm bad with names. But yeah, they can be quite the pain unless you take them out very quickly, so it's usually a good idea to have a bit of SP here, snipe them out the sky, and then that just becomes a non-threat issue. Often take a highward sky slash there nicely in. And cuts through, so we'll be approaching the mecha tank, even though it's the hunter tank, but I always forget it's hunter tank, so we say mecha tank instead. So we want to take off the top.
The enemy names. Go ahead.
As I say, just want to take off the top of the tank here first. I'll expose the core, then just keep in close, smashing it in. Ideally, the runners also look to give these little turrets a bit of a swipe and just push them back in the ground. Leaves less worry for potential bullet spray to snipe you around.
Absolutely. Controlling those bullets proving to be very important, especially since they can kill you after the fight. Much to our chagrin. Very confusing at first.
Yeah, the first time it happened to me, I was literally just staring at my screen for 5 minutes going, what the just happened? Until someone said, oh, there's a stray bullet. I was like, oh, well, that's not fair. Right, back here we go. So on Big K side, going to be going for the snipe.
Good snipe.
And I thought that was going to be a little low, to be honest, but it just clipped in, and that always works out great. The snipe isn't necessarily a thing that must be gotten, but it makes that section much more comfortable and less of a concern. You get the first snipe, the second enemy will always be in the vicinity of your height, so you may want to get the second strike on him, no problem. The light is to just progress through that room nice and smooth, so good job on Big K side. That snipe, the first snipe shot is particularly relatively tight and quite easy to miss.
Too much damage last time, but is able to sink past that blue bomber guy, and of course I don't know the names yet either, I apologize, but able to make it through cleanly on the second try here. Hoping for Chapter 3 to clean up for both runners. So far looking pretty good for Kyle.
Yeah, we'll be approaching the boss of this chapter.
And Shuriken for the money grab there. That's a very quaint strat.
Indeed, you keep that forward momentum, and you got spare SP. Get yourself a little extra cash. You never know when that can come in handy. So both of our runners at different points of the chapter. Currently, Dian's going to be approaching the hunter tank momentarily, but for now, Big K hitting the stage 3 boss in the biohunter as he picks up next little side operations equipment of the swag blade. A good old saw blade attached to a nice piece of string. And this boss likes to stay in the air throughout the majority of phase 1, so we want that swag blade to pretty much deal the damage in for phase 1. But the swag blade does have a secondary property not too far off from here. In the meantime, phase 2 is going to start in the middle and just, yep, that's how it's done. You get enough damage in the first phase, you just go in straight in, obliterate him, and he does not have a chance to move. Nicely done on his side. And also DM taking the tank out without much issue. He also managed to wipe out the central turret, so gave him more room to breathe on the ground, which was a nice formation of approach to that fight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Great usage of like the no SP rising fire, down and up, and just blade both turret and boss at the same time. Something I'm going to start adapting and using that.
It would be a smart decision. I don't blame you for taking that approach. Right, so
lucky SP on his way to return to the Monkey Shrine. How do you think he's going to take out this detonator?
Well, there's a good old saw blade on a string here.
Who didn't love playing with saw blade on a string as a kid?
Well, there was the yo-yo. I guess this is kind of the extreme version of the yo-yo. I wonder how many people still have fingers by the time it's over, but then again, that's the question for another day as we approach Monkey Shrine. Here, the first dojo segment is usually a testing ground, so to speak. There's a couple of these that you enter during the course of the run. And this one is effectively a race to the top. So there's the blue monkey. And pretty much you want to get to the top before he does. If you do, you are successful and you'll be able to advance and get your next upgrade in. Otherwise, you'll be forced to fall all the way back down the bottom and have to restart the entire climb from scratch. Looks like Big K having no real issue there whatsoever. Gets into the door well in time before the monkey gets anywhere close. And now he'll get the wall slide, which is effectively a wall climb. So be able to start kicking off of the walls and climbing up basically. which they need to get out, and that Swag Blade taking out the bomb a bit earlier on, because that turns out to be the exit of this area. So having that Swag Blade takes a good about 3 seconds, so you don't have to wait around for the bomb to explode. And Dian now clearing up his chapter 3 pretty much and approaching.
Got to be very careful making this ascent. Smart move to go over and grab that extra health in the crate just to make sure nothing goes crazy. You know, you might feel confident killing those enemies, but one slipped input is certainly death.
And that is quite a common occurrence in Cyber Shadow. To be fair, the run in general, as long as you do everything spot on, it actually doesn't feel quite as bad as you may expect it to be. But one little input mistake that happens, it could completely change the entire aesthetic of how that room should be approached, and it could be quite the nightmare to recoup.
Absolutely, seeing some of that with Biohunter, just a little bit of missed damage, and we're going into this extra phase. Fortunately, he should be able to clean up first phase now. A lot of good damage on the boss, so we're hoping for a clean phase 2 as well. Meanwhile, Swag Blade looks like it's deciding to help Kyle out. Homie Blade.
He's manipulating that blade very nicely, going into chapter 4. So the first few chapters, chapters 1 and 2 sort of gets you familiar with a couple of aesthetics. Chapter 3 puts you to the test of those. Chapter 4 is where it really starts to kick up a bit more. Enemies are going to hit harder.
Almost
there's going to be a lot more stuff in and around. A lot of more flying enemies as well, just to be a pain. So this is realistically where the run starts to kick up the next gear. But as we said, it's still hard from the get-go, but this is where it starts to get even harder.
Absolutely. One could spend hours going through any of these rooms, just trying different ways to mess up their inputs and make mistakes. The potential for backup strats is very rich in this run.
It gets up there in the cyberspace here. It's a little cyber room able to use, when you enter them ones, it's sort of like an unlocking mechanism. You can use it to unlock certain things. In this case, it's to unlock a door. If you notice, you only hit one switch. There's actually 2 switches in that room that you're supposed to hit. But for whatever reason, you hit the first one, the door's open. And that's what we call shoddy security. Well, we're not complaining. It makes things a little bit quicker.
Looks like the tester for that system died just outside of it, so I guess it can be forgiven.
Fair point. Fair point indeed. Dian now dealing with his monkey climb going up. Does not have the Swag Blade, which is a fair enough decision. Swag Blade itself can be a pain in the backside in the sense of it could destroy the crates along your way, which could just change the approach that you have to take, or it could even make you slip up. So making sure it's gone before you enter that section gives you more control. So it's a fair call. Gets his wall climb. Fire Shween.
Activating that pogo right when grabbing the orb, getting the Fire Shween.
So TheBigK is on one of these scariest cycles to meet and best. Having to get this room precise so you could just basically clip down here, get between those two and land on a platform whilst you've got a bunch of rotating things. It is pretty tight and it's very scary every time you do it. Literally a butt clencher of a cycle to best. But nicely performed there on TheBigK's side. Gets it, no problem. Starts pogoing his way through, as he will get through this. Looking like no problem. Took a little bit of hit there. It's quite common to get hit there, to be fair, though. A couple of things going in about, but all in all, that was a beautifully done segment on the TheBigK side, as Dian now takes his approach into Chapter 4.
Beautiful snipe. Love to see that pogo shuriken combo coming in strong. Getting a little exercise, swimming in those pools, and then moving on to the next room.
Oh. Got a little short there on his downward pogo.
Yep. Able to get a good cleanup and deal with these guys on the way down. Spark Cycle will be maybe a little bit different from what he's used to, but it looks like he's okay.
Yeah, it looks alright in general. Should be able to get through.
Jan taking the
general.
Jet.
Yep.
There.
Yep. No problem there. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention with Chapter 4, this happens to be the home of the most RNG boss in the run. Now, unfortunately, his RNG isn't the worst in general sense, but compared to a lot of the other bosses, it's noticeable that he has a bit of RNG to him, as we will get to see momentarily in the form of Mecha Dragon. I don't know about you, Carl, but this is usually the part of the run where I sort of start to pray a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Praying for those helicopter pads to be in the right positioning, praying for Mecha Dragon to come up somewhere convenient for me to stand on those pads, getting enough SP. There's a lot of factors in this fight that are constantly shifting and changing your decision making, which makes it an intellectually stimulating battle, but also a bit butt clinchy, I think, might be the academic term for it.
Yeah, it's a fair term to use for this fight. Yeah, you can't be 100% sure exactly what is going to be happening at what points. But as I say, the RNG isn't the worst that's ever been around in terms of a game and a speedrun. But it's enough for you to have to think about your approach, how to sort of maneuver around, try and manipulate certain aspects, even though it is RNG. You try to do anything just to get this bot to cooperate, and it doesn't work out all the time. But looking good on BigK's side. I believe that was free. I can't remember. I'm not sure if it's 3 or 4 there, but either way, decent, respectable cycle. Nicely done.
I was just holding on to my chair as tight as I could. I think it was 3 as well. Dyan almost getting a nice dry sock strategy, keeping his Tabi out of the water there. Unfortunately, bonking just a little bit on the ledge. Meanwhile, Big Kyle facing up against the Light Warriors. Apparently, the faster you hit this crystal, the faster those guys will spawn, and you really want to deal with them before they hit the ground, or else they can start blocking and being difficult.
True. I mean, if they happen to drop in the early part of this segment, it's not the worst case, because they will try and attack you, and you can probably catch them on the fly, but in an ideal world, you really don't want them to let them land. Dyan's making his way through quite nicely. A couple of rooms ago, he actually did something that I've not seen him run to do, taking the right side instead of the left side of the wall and taking the intentional tank just to save that extra half second to a second roughly from having to jump to the left side to avoid the enemy. So a bit of a risky play there, but every little second helps in a speed run. A second could feel like an eternity. Looking like he opted out. It looked like he may have been able to get the cycle there, but choosing to play a little safe and opt out. Oh God, that's my heart there.
I always
got caught by an enemy, could have been easily
This alley is extremely terrifying. It's very fortunate to see him moving through it that smoothly. And just a small hiccup and then opting to go with a safer cycle to not maybe get hit in the spikes or some other annoying death. Meanwhile, Big Kyle taking the Charge Blaster very far. Commentator curse, don't come now.
This is why I wasn't planning on talking about this.
If we call it out, it can't hurt him. It isn't real. Okay. Wishing a similar beat up of Chapter 4 for Dyanketo as he makes it through this annoying snakehead segment. Nice damage boost there, and going into Vessel Defense System. How does this fight work, Turkey?
So you got 6 orbs on the wall here. That'll start spawning from left to right as the fight begins. The aim of the game is to simply take those orbs out. That will force the gates to go into an attack mode. From there, you just need to get what damage you can in, and ideally you want to take it down in 1 round, which Big K did successfully. Did take a number of hits, though. If you notice, these sub-weapons that they've been picking up there, next to them they actually have a life meter of their own. They could take 3 hits a time. After the 3rd hit, it goes bye-bye. And the weapons that you unlock are tied to the checkpoints that you specifically unlock them at. So only having 1 hit left is going to make the next part a bit risky, a bit tricky to try and get this gun all the way through, because ideally what he's going to try and do is take this gun for the majority of Chapter 5 to be able to take a skip and cut out roughly 25 seconds of the run at the first skip. If you can take it all the way to the second, an additional 15 on top. So you can save a good amount of time through Chapter 5 if you can get it through, but getting this gun all the way through everything is no easy feat. Especially now we have the new parry.
Safety, and good parries, while hopefully Mecha Dragon is kind.
Yeah, Dyan having his Mecha Dragon battle, getting done with first phase. Swayze, and here comes the dive up. He's going to try and fall over to the right of him. Usually it always follows some kind of arc. So
only we got parry for this fight.
Would be nice. Would be nice if he gets half of his health down by the end of cycle 2. Maybe able to get away with a 3 round and may have to go into a 4th.
It's like he almost nailed him with that Charge Blaster on the way up, just barely missing. Going to wait in the water, that's a smart move under the breath. Didn't look like he had very much move to maneuver.
Platforms just did not cooperate. Unfortunately, on Big K's end, the gun has been lost. Unfortunately, took a hit on the way up. As mentioned, it's not an easy feat to carry that gun away through, especially when you've only got one hit left on it. It's requiring you to get through Chapter 5 essentially damageless, which, with parrying involved, that can be tricky. So the parry works a bit like in akin to something like Street Fighter 3 First Strike. I always use that as the main example, being a fighting game fan in general. So press towards the projectile will actively parry it, and it will cause another projectile to appear, which you can actually swipe back into your enemies to cause additional damage. And this type of trade button method becomes very useful when it comes to pretty much every boss fight from this point on. So being able to use the parry to its highest potential is where they're going to get the most destructive power.
Absolutely. Coming in a huge play, not just for Chapter 5, but the whole rest of the run. We are seeing Kyle now executing the skip, going up and over the doors. We would be able to open with E-Field or Charge Blaster, but unfortunately Chapter 5, having a will of its own, decided this would not be the run for the skip.
Skip. Sorry, first I've heard it from this one.
Just
quite good.
Damage boosts right through it, just doesn't care about the turret, says I'm only here for the switch.
And nice, yeah, that would have been the point where the gun would be used for the first skip, as I mentioned, the skip, which I do like. Sorry, you just caught me off guard with that a little bit. We now run into good old Alpha here. So this is just a meet up for now. What you end up doing is tanking your health down to 1, because regardless, you will always be put to 1 health at this point, and if you happen to have health on your person, you've got to wait a bit longer for Alpha to crunch your health all the way down. So tanking, especially when he's not carrying the gun forward at this point, just taking the remaining damage he needs just to get himself to 1, just to save all the time he can at that point. So it's a good play.
But a quick wall kick saved his life there after unfortunately hitting one of those squids that broke free. Jellyfish, what are they?
Cheese, I don't know. I thought they were jellyfish in a way. I'm not really too sure. I don't know names, so it could be anything.
Very nice. Kyle executing this last wall of plague here, picking up, not opting for an SP dispenser. I respect that. Gonna save the essence for a rainy day.
Nice. We now get Alpha, and they'll run a little bit too far there. That can happen with Alpha 1. And if you run a bit too far as he's jumping over you, you'll force him into a stomping animation. But he will always do a stomping after he's done 3 attacks. The 4th attack will always be the stomping grounds. So, but you can manipulate a stomping ground out of him sooner if you wish. But to be fair, he got him down pretty quickly there.
Very nice parry in that fight, although a bit too fast on the positioning. His parries were excellent.
Indeed, on that, it's one of the first bosses for the parry system to really kick in. And I'm about to say, you can get everything in that fight. Alpha just melts. It's a great feeling when it's pulled off.
Absolutely.
And we got to the end of Chapter 4 for Dyan, getting his parry in play, and he's actually opted to pick up the E-Field. So,
a bit of a damage charge blaster, so good call on that.
Indeed, on that front. So, as Carl mentioned earlier, either using this or the gun to go for the skip is definitely a good decision to take, especially if you're about to lose the gun anyway. And they both have their own different things. The gun gives you a better offensive approach when going through Chapter 5, but the E-Field gives you far better defensive options. So it'll make your life a little bit easier, not having to worry about as many projectiles going forward, as you can use the E-Field to essentially just block them.
Unfortunately, not being Super Mario Brothers, taking a small bonk from that stalking enemy, but still having one more hit. Wishing the best for this E-Field and Dyan as he goes through the remaining part of Chapter 5 up till the skip. Will it be skip? Will it be skip? Stay tuned to find out. Meanwhile, Kyle absolutely obliterated Alpha 2 and moving on to obtain the dash, which rests just below this trapped ninja.
And this is where the run changes. As mentioned earlier, the run is essentially a game of 2 halves. The front half, at this point, once it gets the dash, is effectively done. So technical platforming won't take as much of a precedence over just chaotic speed. The property with the dash, not only can you just dash and move faster in general, but you have a dash/attack that will just fly you across the screen. And you use that in the right sense and feeling, especially if you use a SP charge one. Any trait or enemy that you destroy using an SP charge dash will also replenish that dash that you've just used. So you spend an SP, you get an SP. If you spend an SP and take out 3 targets, you'll get 3 SP back in return, guaranteed. We use that type of methodology to be able to strategize and map out how we want to approach each spot to ensure that we maintain our SP position. It was pretty much at this point, SP is very vital to maintain correctly.
It's our life force and our fuel for our speed. Right now, Dian holding on to his life force. One more enemy for the skip. Looks like he will have the skip. No commentator curse out of the gate. He had an unbelievably terrifying moment with the 2 purple spiders just under that last checkpoint. Very good to see him sneaking by, opening that door from far away. The E-Field actually being able to hit things off screen as he goes into Alpha to get crunched a bit, and Big Kyle is just flying through this robot factory. Bit of an interesting mechanic at this level. If he hits these red lasers, it will trip the security system. Which you can do intentionally or not, and then get chased by this Sawblade Samus Aran looking character, doing 3 damage if it contacts the ninja.
Yeah, that blade hurts.
Real bad.
And
it's fast too, and unpredictable.
Yeah, it's one of them blades that I wish I could throw a lasso around and use it as the ultimate swag blade, but the game won't let you do that, unfortunately.
That's a great idea.
So, notice on Dian's side, he opted not to take the crunch from Alpha. He's going to try and take this E-Field to the secondary skip as well. And there is, as Carl mentioned, that's the additional property that the E-Field has over the gun. It can actually hit targets off screen. So if he could at least get this to just before the Alpha 2 fight, he'll be able to open the gate ready instead of having to take the gun into the Alpha 2 fight and succeed the fight before he can actually get the skip. So he's going to try and take this all the way through. And Godspeed, my friend.
Wishing him the best in this Alpha 1 fight. Excellent parries, or at least great usage of the shield, which can actually block Alpha's attacks. He is going to go for that parry and nails it. Soaking the next attack. So far, so good. Alright, now we have the ground pound city, as promised, after 3 attacks. Very nice.
Nicely executed there as a BigK. Before we even knew it, he was pretty much done with Chapter 6.
Wow, what happened to the Robot Factory? Here we are on Tunnel Cleaner. Big Kyle has looked like he got some expert slashes and parries in to get this boss's health down pretty low. Look, sometimes going for a double bomb setup. Looks like it didn't quite happen, but is able to get a quick cleanup on that kill after that.
And quite clearly, we may have missed a bit of it, but he obviously got through that chapter very smoothly. I mean, before we knew it, he was already taking on the boss. So, GG's on that from Mr. BigK. Oh, Ian unfortunately dropping the E-Field. So he'll have to opt out of secondary skip. So, this is unfortunate, but he's still alive.
Taking it that far, you know, that's very bold to go from that checkpoint, and you know, if you're going to opt for the SP dispenser strats, to not go for a fresh tool versus a 1 HP shield, but I absolutely love to see that kind of aggressive gameplay.
Indeed, on that front, it's not an easy feat to meet, especially with that one hit. He went for it, but didn't quite make it, but he got there through. Opting to do a return to menu so he can build up his SP back up. A nice, wise decision there to make sure he's got the SP for Alpha 2 fight. As BigK now going through Chapter 7, enter the Streets of Rage as we go. And so far so good. Dealing with the doors, which I learned rather recently, to my dismay, that they're called Knock Knock. Why? Oh. Why Knock Knock?
Who's there?
Don't stop. But yeah, these doors can be quite finicky. You can at least manipulate them in a way so you get the same pattern every time. But of course, that's if the rest of the segment wants to play ball with you, because it can be quite the nightmare. But unfortunately, taking a bit of a knock there. Luckily, the door is dead, so we will not have to worry about destroying that again. Just has to get back through, and he's not far from the checkpoint, so BigK will not lose too much time as a result of that. So dealing with Chapter 7 so far very nicely. He has now another door to deal with. And gets through no problem, as Dyan's now going to get his dash and join him in the second half of the run. And let his chaotic speed kick into play.
All right. Both runners have got D. We can go very fast now. Let's get all your jam and dance emotes for, both of these tracks, honestly. Gonna have to look out for these terrifying rocket sewer skulls. What are those guys called?
I'm good with what you just called them.
Terrifying rocket
The
sewer.
only reason I knew what Knock Knock was because it just stood out when I saw the name. She's like, really?
You don't want to get hit by these guys. They are explosive. I believe 3 or 4 damage, but very, very painful. And now getting this bonus SP dispenser hiding in the back there, Kyle's going to want to take that as far as possible. If he's able to make the transition to Super Ninja with the SP dispenser, he'll be looking at a very fast Chapter 8 start.
On that, and he does something in the earlier parts of the mines that you don't see many runners do. Usually when they do the pogo up the little bubble, they'll usually try and get it in as close to evade the explosive effects to keep that face guy pretty much locked off. But I've seen TheBigK do the run a number of times now. He pretty much always explodes it out and uses it, manipulates it into position so he could use it to dash through and get his SP back without costing any SP. Very clever train of thought in approach of that section.
Unfortunate clip on the Rustfly, that dash not quite coming out, and then a dash cancel leading to a slow dash. But Kyle is able to clean it up with 2 health left on the SP dispenser, looking optimistic to make it through this next Cyberlock. We just got to work our way down here to the core and have a clean route around the turrets.
Indeed on that. So having 2 points on his SP dispenser is definitely going to be very useful to him as Dyan now continuing through to the Robot Factory. Just touch up a bit on this as TheBigK kind of left us in the dust when it came to that. So as we mentioned, there's a couple of there's these alarm systems that you can manipulate and operate them if you want. You can choose to leave them or not. And Dyan, I'm trying to keep up with him, but he's probably got a clinic so far in this chapter, pretty much getting everything that you'd want to get. So using the dashes, using the enemies in position as best as you can.
Reset this room cycle. Okay, he has a very specific way he wants to handle this laser, I think. And he is clean dashed over it without tripping the alarm. What a ninja.
Yeah, he gets in with the cycle. Got a little caught there, but apart from that, so far nicely done. He will enter these lasers and do what's known as the dash cancel technique. I believe you touched up on it a little bit a moment ago. Usually when you're dashing into consecutive enemies, when you dash through one, you have to give a slight delay before you can trigger off your next dash. However, if you trigger your run right after you connect with your first dash and
yeah. Oh. Am I up? And I wasn't sure which one of our nets died, but it seems we are back. Welcome back.
I guess Discord decided to say, no, he's talking too much, he might curse him, let's just shut him up. Smart choice, Discord, I don't blame you.
Apologies for the deer in the headlights. I was just evaluating on my end what the situation was, as Dan is making a quick work of tunnel cleaner, and Kyle is just zooming through Chapter 8. You love to see all of these dash attacks used, still having 1 point on that SP dispenser.
Yeah, just like we said with Chapter 4, where the game starts to really pick up. Chapter 7 picks up quite a good amount. Chapter 8 is when it all comes into play, because at the end of Chapter 7, you've got everything powered up. You've got your double jump as such, a lot of charge-up powers. Now you're at the full power of your capacity. So pretty much from Chapter 8 onwards is the game's way of basically saying, okay, we've given you all the tools, we've showed you everything you need to know. Good luck.
And good luck you will need, as this you get all the toys, but the game gets so much more difficult. So we missed a bit of Big Kyle going in to meet the dragon statue, which empowered all of his abilities, each ability having like a secondary upgraded form now. As we've touched on the double jumps and charge dashes, and Shuriken can become kunai now. Which, actually, I guess that was already a thing. No, that just happened. I'm still learning.
Indeed, it'd be the one of the abilities, as you mentioned, having the charge ability, you can turn a shuriken into a kunai, or an explosive kunai. That actually does become useful in a couple of spots. To be fair, the main thing that we use from that segment is, of course, the double jump. But there are a couple of spots where the other charge abilities may very well come into play, from the boosted up rising fire to the kunai, maybe even a boosted up aerial strike to do an additional double damage on certain enemies. But of course, a number of them are usually runners' preference. Of course, the double jump is runners. Just we need it. It's nice. But now UK dealing with his second auto scroller. I mean, who doesn't like a good bike ride? So, hey, hello to Exo, the bike.
Exo is our friend. We saved him from that last cyberlock Big Kyle was in.
Yeah, needed to power up the bike to even use it. Ian also using that red skull to in manipulation to be able to use the charge slash through. So far so good on his side. Playing catch up here at the moment. These only being a chapter behind though, so anything can still happen at this point. Run is with a game like this. The run is certainly never over until it is over.
Good job batting away that skull, keeping that SP dispenser fully healthy.
Very true. The further you can carry it, the more benefits you're going to get in the run. Because there are just certain strats and approaches in certain rooms where if you don't have the SP dispenser, you've got to take a slower approach. It's just inevitable. But if you happen to have it, you can go all out and save yourself a couple of seconds in several multiple rooms. So, especially from Chapter 8 onwards, having that SP dispenser is definitely valuable, for sure.
A nice use of a dash into Pogo there, just going really high over those dropping enemies, not taking a chance with them. 3 HP looks like a really good chance here. If nothing goes terribly wrong, that Dyan's going to be keeping that through the dragon sequence, possibly even to Exo 2.
Oh, that would be interesting, because there is a nice little property if you can carry it that far. For whatever reason, it will stop dispensing SP, as you do not need SP, but it will start dispensing a nice amount of healthy essence. It's kind of weird how that works, but it's a nice reward for being able to carry it all the way through.
Certainly not complaining for finally making a payday.
Indeed, unfortunately, Dyan did take a couple of hits during that segment. His SP dispenser is down to 1, but he does still have it in possession, so he can still take the advantages of the SP dispenser, going from the end of this chapter to the start of Chapter 8. As we now have Exo Mark II on Big K side, where the bike now becomes a mech. So Transformers, here we go. Nice little running gun segment. You can follow a similar pathway, take the same hits all the time, but it can get risky if you tank too much damage. Unfortunately, it can lead to things like that. And we weren't too far behind though, so it shouldn't be too major of an effect.
Yeah, these Exo checkpoints are actually pretty forgiving. So definitely HP management important through the section, as things can quickly get out of hand. Making it through now, second try, as Dyan is Super Ninja on his way to Chapter 8 as well. Really like that jumping off of, you can actually land on those enemy walls and jump over them.
Okay, nice.
For attack,
so we get into Chapter 8.
We just mash attack and try to jump and rise the bullets with it, right? It's always going to land in the same locations every time. So not much RNG with this boss, except maybe where the enemies spawn.
And the enemies will spawn out of the vessel itself. However, there is a thing that can be done. The movement of the vessel is actually dependent on where you are at the moment of when it exits the field. So you can effectively change the cycle if you wish, but the cycle that we do is usually what's considered the main one to take, because you can keep it in. You can keep yourself getting high damage at each of those respective points.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Taking a small spark hit here in the next room, but Dyan is not letting anything slow him down. He's just zooming through Chapter 8. Still 2 points on that SP dispense. Wait, he got a new one, actually? That's the move that I'm liking myself more and more.
He could have very well done so at the beginning of, or just at the end of Chapter 7, entering Chapter 8. There is an SP dispenser at that checkpoint. So it is very likely that that's what he did if he had 2 points on it. So it's a fair enough decision to make, just to be able to go for the more all-out methods and strats. So he manages to make it through using a charged-up parry there. Unfortunately missed that one then, so he's going to be sent back a little bit. But the charged-up parry version, rather than just parrying the bullet straight back in, it will cause a scatter effect, and all the bullets that go out will try and hit any target that is currently in field. If you can get that to a single target, they just all home in, and, well, that's good damage there and then.
Very good. A couple of death loops in this chapter. Chapter 8 can be a bit notorious for being cursed, and this intro being a very quick portion. But Dian is able to get back up to this parrying point. 2 HP in a dream. We'll see what the parries look like on this attempt. And unfortunately, we are going back.
Yeah, you hate to see when death cycles happen. But unfortunately, it is just a part of this game where they can just happen. I haven't recently had a death loop in Chapter 10 to the tune of 5 minutes. So it's just something that can just happen. Speaking of death loops, Big K actually in probably one of the more infamous death loop segments, but just makes absolute non-issue of it. Well executed there.
There we go. Dian is moving on to wake up Exo. Move on through his own Exo portion as Big Kyle still just flying. 2 HP on that dispenser. Down to 1. But we've got a dream and we can make it work.
Indeed, on that, as we've said, keeping that SP dispenser through as much as you can. There are several that we pick up as and when as we go on. So being able to keep it through as long as you can keeps that SP topped up at all times, and I'll give you other options that you would not necessarily be able to keep. Fortunately, taking a hit there loses a dispenser, but he has plenty of SP in general possession, so he should be okay at this point.
Once you get to this stage, it seems pretty generous with the enemy placements.
Okay, so that is going to be Exo Awaken on the inside. He'll be taking a nice lovely bike ride through as Big K dealing with this particular room that can be a little finicky at times. Take wisely opts to remove that enemy from the field because he can fire and just snipe you out.
Yep. So let's get out of here, not taking any chances. Let's see if he's, going to charge up the blade, throwing that kunai we talked about, blowing up the wall because any explosive will work there, not just the red cores.
Which is definitely a nice time save there, nice little time save to take advantage of. Plus it helps with keeping forward flow. And he's pretty much approaching the final segments of Chapter 8, taking the safety health there. I don't blame him because dying at this point will send you back to a checkpoint that's a good 40 to 50 seconds away. So just taking a second just to grab that health and make certain he's going to have no issues. He's good and through as he will enter Chapter 9.
Going to the docks. We got a boat to catch. Hopefully it's a slow boat, am I right? Look at the fast.
I wish there was no boat.
Well, no boat.
Then again, I've still got boat nightmares from Risky's Revenge, so I'm going to have a problem with a boat from time to time. But you are right, indeed. We're hoping for a bit of fortune on the boats.
We'll see that cycle in a little bit here. Just have to survive a couple of monster gauntlets, starting with this, I guess, kind of like the hunter turret, right? And some of these wall clinglings and other hunter boar turrets. I don't know what anything is called. Bear with me.
It's a bunch of stuff that you're forced to fight. We know that.
We're
getting through without too much hassle. I mean, Chapter 9 in general is one of the shorter chapters, most certainly not one of the easier ones. Because the idea is that people just stay up in above water as much as you can. But if you happen to fall in that water, well, you'll be treated to a nice host of mines. And, well, they definitely do some damage, for sure. It seems like Big K's getting through without too much of a hassle in general. Has a good amount of health. Hits that checkpoint as he now takes out the core. And let's go, boat, auto scroller, here we go. So enemies are just going to fly in.
Oh, boat.
Now, it sounds like he's trying to curse the runner here, but believe you me, he's trying to use reverse psychology, and I've got my fingers crossed that it works. Otherwise, we're going to be blaming you for a slow boat if it does actually happen. But yeah, it's essentially auto-scroller aspect. All the enemies are always going to spawn in the same way. You notice the enemies are sort of, you can see certain things in the background, like a star in the sky just flying across. That's actually an indicator of when the enemy's coming, as well as to which side. But it's always going to be the same pattern every time you do this segment. So that's at least one fortunate thing.
Absolutely. Just kind of waiting for those sparks for the jet flies to fly in and tell which side they're going to. Knowing this fight, it's always going to be the same order, so you can get a feeling for which one's going to spawn first and who you should take out. But the key is to just be very patient, not to dash too early and find yourself out the waves, having to die and restart this boat.
Very important that you don't do that, because being an auto-scroller, it's a guaranteed set amount of time that you will lose as a result. But Big K, no problem, and yeah.
After that fire, you should see a transition, but unfortunately, taking its dear sweet time, we missed the bus.
I hope you weren't the bus driver then. Did you leave him behind on purpose?
No.
Yeah, a little bit of a random thing there. We're not quite sure exactly how it operates, but essentially you'll either get a fast spawn of the boat being done or a slow spawn. But either way, we're going into Chapter 10 now, and Chapter 10 will not pull any punches, being the final chapter of the run. Straight away going into a boss fight with Combinatron. So pretty much want to keep as much offense in as you can. The last thing you want to do is unfortunately miss out on the damage there, because once Combinatron gets to this point and he's weakened out, he will forcefully heal himself. If you don't get the kill down in time, then he will effectively just keep healing himself for a very long time. So it can be a right pain to recover once he heals. Looks like Big K managed to recoup that nicely. Did allow him to heal himself properly to force him back into doing another attack. Manipulates him in such a manner that he can go back to going all out and just finally finishing him out. So there's a nice bit of strategy play. He's now going to need to recover his SP, as he's now going to start flying through the sky.
Meanwhile, another F for Dyanketo. He didn't have better luck either. But now just opting for that smart title screen reset back to full HP, or at least 5 HP. 6? I can't count. Point is, he's feeling pretty healthy. He's just zooming through that bottom segment. That was very clean. And only 2 HP, but still having a dream he's holding on tight to. I believe he will make it through this gauntlet. Meanwhile, Kyle making
I'm saying nothing in fear of curse.
That section is very easy to get tripped up on, miss the momentum on your dash, get hit by an enemy, anything will pretty much kill you. He is fortunately able to make it through without any problems, making it all the way to the end and tagging the switch. As long as he can stay on this platform, he's safe. Dian just barely getting clipped at the end there, right after pogoing the enemy. You hate to see those surprisingly fast and floaty pink projectiles.
Indeed, they like to home in on you as well, which is just to add cruelty onto the run. Why not? Unfortunately, hopefully he won't be left caught in that death cycle though. So
enemy
we'll get back in a moment.
Things there does not help, but I am fully confident that he's just gonna keep going and get through this section, Chapter 8. You know, infamous death loop be damned. I believe in you, Dian.
Indeed for that, and we will see how he goes as Big K just coming up to the end of the bulk of Chapter 10. Gonna go into what this stage is sub-boss, the Spider Rail. So Spider Rail is a bit of a fickle thing. It's hard to get heavy damage on him initially because he likes to keep his eye closed. However, there is certain ways where you can manipulate him to be able to keep his eye force open at a certain point of the fight, although it is a very tight window in general to be able to trigger. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get the trigger, but he's still keeping on top of him, getting the damage, and this will be a point where there's going to be a lot of onion rings if he can get the parries in, or at least get the strike damages in before he closes. He should have the fight any moment now, and there we go. So not a bad Spider Rail whatsoever. Nicely done.
Elevator.
Ooh, that was close, dude. That was close, but gets through very nicely. Almost had a saw blade and 4 green things just smack him in the face there. And he just went, nope, not having that.
Not today, Dad. Oh, unfortunate pogo right at the end of the climb, but it's going to take that bomb hit and keep moving 2 HP on the SP dispenser as Kyle goes for the infamous final climb.
I was going to say, you say climb? This is a climb. So the climb is probably the personification of something that we say through the generalization of the run, where it's not so bad. It's, you know, maybe hard, but it's not the worst case if you do everything spot on. But the moment you make one little slip up, it becomes a nightmare. This pretty much personifies that incarnate. But we didn't get to see that with Big K because he had no problem whatsoever and just made it look quite simple, to be fair. So nicely performed there. So the climb we usually refer to as the very first room. There is still the climb in 2 more rooms, but these ones are much calmer to deal with. It doesn't mean you can't get a bit caught up, but it does tend to be a little calmer as he's now.
It's almost exact change for his final purchases on Kyle's side. That's neat. Gonna get the full SP, get the dispenser to keep SP up during this 3-part fight. Gonna have to fight a Parator and then 2 parts of Progen.
Indeed, a bit of a throwback again to the likes of Ninja Gaiden, where the game ends with 3 boss fights in a row. You fail on words are hard. If you fail on any of the fights at any point, you have to restart all 3 from scratch.
At least it doesn't send you back to the start of Chapter 6 if you die. Or game over.
That would just be cruel. You take 1 death, all of a sudden you're back at Robot Factory. Why not?
Really nice parry so far for Kyle on Progen 2, or Progen 1, I guess. Going into 2, we're going to see these 3 pustules trapping in these ninja essences we want to save, and each of those essences has an ability that will empower ninja later in the fight as we try to dodge these spinning glaives.
Indeed, and you take out those 2 pods to be able to activate the blue shield and the red slash. Both of which is very useful in this fight. Intentionally leaving the orb on to the right, so we could use that to pogo up and get up there to score multiple hits of damage.
Very nice, scoring about 3 hits per segment, and that is a really mean project kill for Kyle.
Indeed, and that is pretty much GG on I was going to say on DJ's side there. I can't read names. On Big K's side there. Just got the last little bit to do to release the master from her core cell. And then he will be done with his run. In the meantime, we've got Dian who's entering Chapter 9 currently. Just got to watch out for those green guys. Gets up and about. Door goes down. Intentionally delaying so we can get a bit more SP out of the green guys. Nice little tactical play there. And he'll deal with his lockout room with what remains of poor Hunter Tank.
Oh, taking an unfortunate miss on that. Looks like a parry. We're going to see just a small setback.
Indeed.
Especially painful if you are lacking SP. Fortunately, he has the SP to make shorter work of this.
Nice little parry there. Gonna make sure nothing hits back. And take down the old Hunter Tank remains, and that'll be 1 lockout room onto the second as Big K going Super Saiyan for us all, and down he will go. So as mentioned, you just got to hit a few switches here, just a couple, just so you can get down to the cell. And then 4 switches to hit. Main thing you need to know here is the run is still not safe even at this point. So if you happen to hit 2 of these 4 switches at the same time, the game will soft lock. Last thing you want as we are about to call time, and that is Big K completed. Around 101.40 on the main timer. I have no idea on the race GG because I don't have enough screens to bring it up. Tech on my side be damned.
That's a GG in progress.
So that will be an advancement for the Big K. Sorry?
Oh, okay. We have the finish time. It is a 102.11 on Big Kyle's end. We have in the chat from Samurai, Big Kyle's PB is a 101.02. So, a couple minutes out, but very good showing for an event.
Indeed, it's about keeping it close with a PB is not an easy feat to do during a run of a race or to be fair, when you're performing in something outside your own stream, it can be quite a different feeling experience. So to be able to keep up with your best is certainly a good showing for sure. So big congrats on the Big K side. He will advance on the winner's side to complete round 2 brackets, and he will go one-on-one with Mashia Rambu, the number 3 seed, when that match gets scheduled for some point soon. Unfortunately, Dian will unfortunately drop to the second chance bracket of the losers bracket, and will be awaiting the loser of one of the round 2 matches. I'll look up the brackets in a moment, and we'll be able to sort of determine who's going to go where exactly, but I'm not quite sure. I think Dean will probably be taking on the loser of myself and DJ, though, if I remember correctly, but we'll double check all that in a moment.
Very proud to see Dian like just hopping out the boat dance, hoping for a faster boat. If we can't slow boat, I don't think it would have any effect. I was 2 for 2 on cursing Kyle, so I think everyone just gets slow rides today. But for a very long run, especially fraught with para early on, it takes, a lot of will to keep going, especially, if your hand isn't quite going with you. I've been in a race before where my hand said, no, we can't do this anymore, and to see someone pushing on is very inspiring for me.
Understood. Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, especially if you're hurt, so... Especially when we got Chapter 10 coming up. There seems to be a bit of a turn side. Is he going to continue, or is he letting this be? So I know there has been a
discussion, and no one could be mad at Dian if he were to bow out respectfully now.
Yeah, there's been a few words in the aspect of it. If Dian is still going on when the match is finished, due to injury, he may opt to allow it to end, so it gives his hand a bit more of a chance to recover. So we'll await word on that.
Welcome in.
In the meantime,
GG.
Hello, thank you.
Hello and congrats. Not far off your personal best, so pretty sure you're going to be quite chuffed with that for your opening race.
It was a good one. Other than the very beginning, I died in level 1.
Props for picking it up, though. It didn't look like that got under your skin too much for the rest of the race. That was, we haven't seen the death screen yet, but 2? 3?
About that. There's probably only the level 1 deaths.
There was an EXO one as well, I believe.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, it was just one of those things where take a couple extra hits and then lose track of it, and then total tilt for a bit there. Right out of the gate, just total tilt.
Yeah, that's never fun to deal with when you're in a race and you need this run to be fast, and then you die in chapter 1. You're like, oh, what am I going to do? It's like, well, just pick it up, and you did. You rest of the run was looking really good.
From there, I just kind of went, well, the pressure's off. Just play now.
Right, that can almost be a blessing in a way.
And in the end, it was only really 30 seconds over my personal best somehow.
Welcome in, Dian. How are you feeling?
Double-bladed, double-edged, I don't know how to call it in English. I desperately wanted to at least pass Chapter 10, but... some things went really well, and some things went exceptionally horrible. I mean, if you just look at my Chapter 2, that's my biggest nemesis. It's not even Chapter 6 or 8 or whatever, it's Chapter 2. That's where everything goes wrong.
Flies were brutal, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're playing on console as well, so it's especially not nice.
Yeah, I'm playing on console, that is correct.
You have my utmost respect for everything going through this run, having the injury, dealing with Chapter 2, and still going on and pushing it. Very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I just did the best as I could, because once I died in Chapter 2, I was like, okay, I can accept the death in Chapter 2, that's what usually happens to me. And then it happened again and again, and it keeps on going, and it keeps on cyber shadowing, and it keeps on going in chapter 3, and I was like, okay, well, it's one of those days then.
Yeah.
That's pretty much Cyber Shadow in a nutshell.
Was it the flies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the flies, and sometimes I had snapback on my controller. I'm one of those heathens that doesn't use the D-pad, so once I click to the left or click to the right, it sometimes snaps back and turns the other way around. So you get really funny situations. But hey, it happens.
Indeed. I mean, I feel you with the console variant of Chapter 2. Is one of my least favourite chapters to go through, mainly because there's so many damn flies everywhere. It's a pain. So,
Yeah, that one is the hell to deal with. And once you get through chapter 2, you're like, okay, now I can finally focus on playing the game, because the rest of it isn't that hard compared to chapter 2 for me. I don't know. But yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. You guys both had a pretty strong chapter 7 from what I remember, keeping those SP dispensers going strong. I was really happy to see that. And then I like your choice to buy the dispenser at the start of chapter 7 as well.
Yeah, I can do it damageless, but as soon as I make a mistake, I'm like, yeah, fuck this, I'm just gonna buy it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I've practiced it with so many times with the XP dispenser from chapter 7 that I'm incapable of doing it without it. That's something new to me.
Fair enough. I mean, fortunately, there is that checkpoint that just has an SP dispenser there if you're willing to shell out another 50, so it's a fair call to make. It does save a good 3 to 4 seconds through those next 3 rooms in general, if pulled out, so can't blame you for going with that method at all. And so, I guess with that being said, does anyone else have any final words to bring forth?
I just have a question because I don't have the stream open. What was the big 1K, the big K1, sorry, final time?
I had a 101.39.
Oh wow! Isn't that a PB?
No, not quite. It would have been, but I had a really poor start, and then it kind of got better from there.
All right, on race time, I told everyone it was a 102.11. Apologies. Kyle actually went about 30, 40 seconds faster than that, so well done.
Yeah, well, I guess the race time you actually have to hit done on the app.
Right.
I don't know. I thought it would just end, but it didn't.
That's what I thought too, and I swear I just did that. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I had to go over and click done. Then I was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're doing, there should be a button there to hit, basically. But yeah, so sometimes these things may just not cooperate. I remember SRL doing that to me once before. It was annoying. But it is what it is.
Yep.
Yes, I guess that being said, that pretty much concludes the race. As always, as I say at the end of these ones, if you like what you saw and you want to see more of the tournament, be sure to follow twitch.tv/Strizer86, who's been hosting our tournament as we've been going forward and will be continuing on. Also, give our runners some support, twitch.tv/TheBigK1 and at twitch.tv/Dyanketo. And of course, shout out to me commentator, another good runner of this as well as of the messenger, at twitch.tv/CarlBerrySR. So be sure to show some love to those players, and we'll hopefully get it on with that. And with that being said, Big K, good luck to you in the next round. You'll be going on to take on Michiru Rambu. As for Dian, unfortunately going into second chance, and you'll be awaiting the losing match up from myself and that DJ. So happy preparations as we go on, as we will be
we will be going into round 2 very soon with actually myself versus 2C on Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So stay tuned and keep going. Thank you guys very much for watching and for commentating with me, carrying me through the battle turkey, and everybody for just being here. We appreciate you.